I want to dial it back, if I can, to what another domestic issue. It blew my mind. The argument, I played this yesterday. Let me just play this clip again, at least for a moment, of Ketanji Brown Jackson at this Supreme Court hearing. I see Ashley already smiling because this is like, I still can't believe we're discussing this about like a woman. This is a Supreme Court justice, associate justice technically, Ketanji Brown Jackson, going back and forth with one of the lawyers on this case about West Virginia and banning, men from women's sports, et cetera. Let me play the audio for everybody.
This notion that this is really just about the definition of we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only people who were girl assigned at birth qualify.
Okay, so Ashley, you can only be a girl if you're a girl assigned at birth. Like somehow, I've gotten very. Maybe it's because I'm in my 50s now. The language people use these days really starts to grate on me. Pregnant people, assigned at birth. This isn't like when I think assigned, like I think back to when I was in grade school and they'd be like, okay, you wear the yellow, when you put on like maybe a little beanie thing or whatever, when you're in gym, like we're going to have the red team versus the green team and we're assigning you the green team. And that's how you get assigned things. Like you're on the right, you're on the left, we're odds and evens. That's how I've always, that's assigning somebody something. This idea that okay, boy, girl, that's not they weren't assigned it. That's who they are. This is insane.
Yeah, so remember to her confirmation hearing, we call her Ketanji, what is a woman, Jackson. So that's kind of how we label her. And here we go again, where she can't figure it out herself. I know she had a little moment where she misspoke and she was trying to say gender and she said ginger. So I thought that was quite funny as well, being a redhead myself. But two, I'm a Division I beach volleyball athlete formerly. I know Reagan also was a athlete, played softball in college as well. So this issue is just kind of infuriating to me on a personal level as well. I mean, I feel very gaslit about many of these things. This compelled speech is really what it is at this point of it's just confusing language and it's too much. I will say with this individual case, with the West Virginia case, two individuals have come out, females that were in high school and middle school with the plaintiff in this case, accusing her of sexual misconduct. So it's kind of just blown it up a little bit as well. And, the plaintiff in that specific case is battling against defining the sexes. So male and female. They don't want to do it because it would, change everything for their case in Title IX. So it's coming from a Supreme Court justice. And honestly, Amy Coney Barrett also was saying cisgender and going with the language in this case.
Really?
It's infuriating on all levels, really. Yeah. And I have friends that were on front of the Supreme Court going against this, others doing interviews in the media, and just watching it all, it angers me.
Ashley, I'm glad you brought that up because I too was shocked by Amy Coney Barrett, and she has disappointed a lot of us on the right since she's taken office on the high court. But some of the language she used, you're exactly correct. She was completely sort of obeying language police rules effectively in talking about sex and gender. And, Sean, I'm not trying to disagree with you, but to some degree I will. Well, you are assigned sex. Of course you are, but it's by God. It's not by any human being.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll agree with you on that.
It is by the creator himself we are assigned a sex. But also, I want to bring this up because you mentioned your age. You and I are roughly the same age. We're middle-aged guys in our 50s. But thankfully, you know who else? It's not just the old guys who reject this nonsense. It's also very young adults. I just polled Gen Z, big nationwide poll, over 2,000 Gen Z voters, 18 to 25 years old. And we found, and I asked specifically about these issues, about mixing the sexes in sports, about trans issues generally. And Gen Z is having none of it, especially young men, thankfully. So the millennials might be falling for this garbage. There might be a lot of older women who fall for this garbage if you look sort of demographically at who will play in this make-believe game of pretending there aren't two sexes. But thankfully, I'm really reassured that overall Gen Z, and especially Gen Z men, they seem to have completely rejected this nonsense. They've been taught it all through school. And guess what? Not only did it not take, not only are they not indoctrinated, I think they're actually very compelled the other direction to just say, yeah, we don't believe your propaganda. There are boys, there are girls, there are men, there are women. It's assigned by God.
All right, guys, fall's upon us. That means if you want to have a luxurious night's sleep, do what I do. Switch your sheets over to Boll Branch. It's like staying in the nicest hotel you've ever stayed in your life. I feel like I close my eyes. I'm like, am I in the really nice hotel I stayed in once? But you can do that at home every night. Here's the kicker. To get Boll Branch sheets, you have to use my URL, Boll and Branch, BOLL andbranch.com/Spicer. You got to use it exactly like that. bollandbranch.com/Spicer for 25% off and unlock free shipping on your first order. Some exclusions apply. So Reagan Reese, obviously your sports background, you probably care a lot about this issue, but what blows me away is it's one thing for politicians and leftists to play the language game. Josh Hawley questioned not just a doctor this week in the Senate, senator from Missouri, an OBGYN, okay? And to Steve's point, like, yes, God assigns it, but like of all people, I would assume that like doctors don't have a problem. This is the exchange. I want to play this for people who haven't seen it, that Senator Josh Hawley had with an OBGYN on Capitol Hill. Take a look.
Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics.
Absolutely.
So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
Many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
Can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
Let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago.
All right, Ashley, you get the gist here. I mean, I actually don't like. It continues to shock me. Maybe I shouldn't be. Where I'm like, you've got to be kidding. You're a friggin' doctor. Like, I don't know why this is controversial. No, like people, like if you're a man, you can't get pregnant. Full stop. That's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, do you have eyes is my question to that, really. I mean, we see this, it's like the same interaction over and over again. We go back to Ketanji Brown Jackson. But, you talked about, too, I like that point about Gen Z. Why are they so sick of it? Because all of this really started during COVID, where young men were attacked, white young men. They were being told, oh, you're wrong. You're not accepted. You need to accept this class of people. We had the NIL also happening all at the same time. There's so many things that play into specifically sports as well, just politically, that girls have to deal with all the time, whether it be politics, coaching, your everyday life, just being a normal 20-something-year-old girl or teenage girl. And now you have to deal with somebody coming into your locker room. So that's just like the emotional side of this. But, Josh Hawley was a great line of questioning right there. That is an OBGYN that can't tell you what a woman is. That's all you really need to know.
Reagan, I thought that we had crossed this hump. I feel like maybe we took our foot off the gas on this issue, but based on Ketanji Brown Jackson's questioning and this doctor, I don't know that the issue's settled.
Well, first, I would say if there is anyone out there who doesn't believe that there's biological differences between a man and a woman, they're welcome to come and play a summer slow pitch softball league game with me and the Daily Caller staff, and they can stand at third base like I have to do sometime when a man gets up to base, and you just pray your teeth don't get knocked in because the balls have come
that did happen to me, right?
Yes, I do. And I you were pitching, weren't you?
I was, and I lost 8. I mean, there's a scar here. Yeah, there was a dude. Trust me, I know it was a dude. And he crushed my entire face and spent 4 days in the ICU. So I do know the difference between a dude with a bat and someone that's not a 6'1" from the Energy and Commerce Committee of the House. Not that I hold any grudges, but yes.
And I will tell you this, last season, I can't even remember which team we were playing, but you have to play 3 women on the field at a time during slow pitch softball. That's because there are biological differences between men and women and an advantage in playing men versus women. And we played a team that had a man pretending to be a woman be one of the women that was on the field for them. And luckily, this individual was actually not very good at all. So it was probably an advantage to us. But that was like one of the situations where I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm witnessing this in real time as I'm playing this game. But first, I'll say on the issue and whether it's settled or not, I would think this is something that President Trump really campaigned on and ran on. And because it's such an 80-20 issue and something that most Americans agree with. So the fact that President Trump is elected, I think, is a pretty good indication that most of the country has made up its mind on this. I think clips like this, where you see an OBGYN not being able to answer the question of whether a man can be pregnant, or Ketanji Brown Jackson, I don't even know. I couldn't even follow that sentence that she was bringing. It confused me so much. But these clips, I think, are really great, actually, for the Trump administration, like continuing to allow the left to double down on this and have to commit to a side is something that it's perfect timing going into 2026, something that they should absolutely embrace. And I believe you will see them embrace more as we go into the midterms, because it brings up this idea again, like, remember now the Democrats, they keep pushing affordability down your face. Also remember, the Democrats are the people who want to put men in women's bathrooms and their locker rooms and playing their sports. And so, I think Republicans should welcome this debate as long as they can, because it's just a good thing for them politically.
Pro tip. I think the Daily Caller team, if you can play a Democrat team or a left-leaning team, I think you should get 3 dudes, big dudes, like 6'1", energy and commerce type dudes that, and tell them that they identify to women and see what Democrats say when you show up with that team. Because I have a feeling that they love to talk about it until it's cast on them. That's just my 2 cents. But Steve, I want to touch on a subject that didn't get as much attention this week. The passing, obviously, Michael Reagan passed this week. We had a lot of, but we also lost Scott Adams, and I know you knew him well. I knew him a little. We were texting back and forth. I told him I was keeping him in his prayers, and he was very kind up until the end. I want you more before we get this discussion, because I have a direction I want to put this in, but talk about who he is and the impact that he had.
Sure. Just, an incredible thinker, an incredible patriot. He's really going to be missed, I think, by the millions of people whose lives he touched through his cartoons, his books, and of course, his recent podcast. What I most admired about him, just both from his public-facing persona, but also from what I knew of him privately, is how courageous he was. For example, this is a guy who gave up a very lucrative stream of business regarding his cartoons, his speaking gigs, corporate speaking gigs, which were very well-paying, all of which went away once he came out politically as a pro-Trump, America First advocate. And he was fine. He was fine with making that sacrifice because he believed in something bigger and because he was a truth teller. And that aspect of truth telling, by the way, is how he and I came together. So independent of each other, there were really 3 of us that were working very hard on debunking the Charlottesville hoax, all kind of in our own lanes. I was doing it primarily on TV. Joel Pollack at Breitbart was doing it mostly via writing. And then Scott Adams was doing it mostly on his podcast. But all 3 of us got together on this issue. And it really is what sort of introduced us and created a friend group. And we started texting a lot together and sharing information and retweeting each other and amplifying each other's works and saying, okay, you work on that aspect, I'll do this. And we were like dogs on a bone on this issue, okay? And it took years. But I think finally we have convinced most reasonable people in America now realize that Trump never praised neo-Nazis. In fact, the exact opposite. He explicitly condemned them. And that tentpole hoax was a massive media lie, and perhaps the most important media lie during the entire first Trump presidency. And that's how he and I came to have a real friendship, was all because we were exposing this hoax and trying to tell the truth. And I have such enduring appreciation for him. I'm so honored that I got to be his friend when he was alive. And I'm just so grateful for what he did for the world, even for people that he never spoke to personally, but whom he reached again through his persuasion, through his words, through his humor. Just a wonderful, wonderful man. And by the way, somebody who also accepted the Lord very late in life. And so I sure hope and believe that right now he is celebrating with the Savior in heaven and a very well-deserved rest, because he had a tough time too in those last months. I mean, life really got difficult and painful for him. So just so much to be thankful for.
I'll tell you, Jack Posobiec had this interview with him the other day, And that's why sometimes I just got to remind people, if you're listening to this and you know somebody who's not doing well, reach out to them. Like I actually was texting with Scott last week. I wish I'd just known that was the last time I talked to him. And this message that you mentioned, Steve, his ex-wife, I put it out on social media. I'll put it in the show notes as well, because I don't have time to play it, but he literally left sort of a verbal, like a letter to the world saying blah, blah, blah. And the key line in it is, I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I look forward to spending eternity with him. Very powerful at the end. Ashley, that all being said, everything I wanted to lead with Steve, because I think that talks about who he is. He created Dilbert. He brought a lot of joy and funniness to the world. His books became bestsellers, podcasts, great, right? And then this is how People Magazine, it says Scott Adams, the controversial cartoonist behind Dilbert, dies. That was NPR, rather. And People Magazine says Scott Adams, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. Now, just to put this in context, when O.J. Simpson died, People Magazine said O.J. Simpson dead at 76 from cancer. Like, I'm sorry, like Dilbert, he brought joy to so many people. Huge following, and it's disgraced Dilbert creator. I was really appalled.
Yeah, it's appalling. I mean, he's now passed on, of course, and God rest his soul. I mean, he really has had, such a tremendous impact within media and in the world. I mean, his final letter, if you weren't tearing up, I don't know how you didn't, in a lot of ways. And of course, his Christian faith, putting that first and foremost, was just really touching to me as a Christian as well. But I think, yes, you're exactly right with People Magazine saying this. Rick Grinnell actually put out a tweet, and they talked about who owns a lot of these organizations. That includes the Daily Beast, many other left-leaning outlets. So if you want to get perspective on why that headline was written, but also if you don't know how a news works, it's an editor that decides and is able to publish that. So it goes through multiple people, not just the reporter, and they're the final decision. And the editor here is actually, I have her name, Victoria Edel. So I think everybody should know her name. I know her picture was circulating all over X yesterday. But you got to look at these type of people that are putting this out there on somebody who, passed away tragically and really did have a positive impact on so many lives.
I'm writing this up. Victoria Edel?
Yes.
Okay. I will Google her and I will help spread. President Trump, by the way, putting a very, very kind post out about Scott Adams and his work and his support for this. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.